Welcome back. Now, we all know age is just a number, and you're as old as you feel. But for one Dutch pensioner, those expressions are cold comfort. 69-year-old Emil Ratelband has launched a legal battle against his local government, suing to be recognized as 20 years younger than his actual age. He argues that he faces age discrimination from potential employers and potential love interests on the dating application Tinder. Also, he's fighting to legally change his birth date. And to talk about this, I'm back with Maeve McMahon, our Brussels correspondent, Politico reporter Lily Bayer, and MEP Jasenko Selimovic. All right, you were snickering when we talked about Tinder, but Tinder aside, is there a legal basis? Is there a point? Does he have a point that we should be able to lower our age if he wanted to, legally?
Well, he's testing a border. Where does these borders go now these days? And we actually are expanding them all the time. Now these days you can change the sex if you want to, legally change it, and he wants legally to change age.
Avoid discrimination.
So we're going to come to the point until somebody says stop. This is not fine any longer. But I mean, this is a good battle. It should be supported in its essence, kind of as a battle. We'll see where it will end up.
What do you think? Because ageism works both ways. You can be too young for your job or too old. So do you think he has a point that we should be able to change?
Having traveled a lot through Europe recently, I think that his case will be seen very differently depending on the country and the legal system. But I do think that especially in Western Europe and in the US, we are seeing more and more attempts to test the limits of individual rights.
I think
isn't it a bit ridiculous? I mean, nobody likes getting older, but he should just accept the fact that he's getting older.
But there is an actual ageism campaign on October the 1st. It's launched as a global campaign to fight ageism. It will run for 70 days, and it will culminate on the International Human Rights Day. So it's being seen as going against someone's human right to be discriminated against age.
Well, there's reverse ageism as well. I mean, If you look at around this House, you've got MEPs who are quite young and they're often mistaken to be MEP assistants. I mean, they're also discriminated because they're young and they're not taken seriously. Also in jobs as well. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah, sure. But you're basically right. But let's make the same argument about the sex, about the gender. You are born as a woman. You are supposed to like it. If you don't like it, you cannot do anything about it. Well, we are not accepting that any longer. We are accepting that people can change the gender, can change the sex, can kind of be making the transformation. We're accepting. Why not in age?
That's more a human rights issue.
Or this is not.
This is a discrimination issue, isn't it? A human rights issue as well. That's the point that he was trying to make as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's making a point and he's grabbing the attention with it and really breaking the headlines with it and having a good debate about it. And it's good to talk about it.
This is the beginning of another debate. You're right. Where does it stop? It's a good question.
Welcome to the Watchman YouTube channel. This channel is all about world news and Bible prophecy, pointing to the soon return of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Jesus said, as a sign of his coming and the end of the age, there would be an increase in deception, false Christs who will deceive many, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, Christian persecution, apostasy, false prophets, and lawlessness, causing the love of many to grow cold. Jesus said all of these signs would come like birth pains. Jesus was likening last days events to a woman in labor. As the labor progresses, the pains increase in both frequency and intensity until the baby finally comes. As we get closer to Jesus' return, all the signs he gave us as a sign of his coming and the end of the age will become more frequent and more intense. All of these signs are manifesting around the world in our time.
One of the reasons President Donald Trump gave to pull out of the 2015 nuclear deal and reimpose sanctions on Iran was the country's growing military influence in the Middle East and their ballistic missiles program. So it was perhaps not a coincidence that Iranians scheduled one of their largest military exercises of the year on the same day as U.S. sanctions kicked back in. Multiple air defense units took part in war games spanning 500,000 square kilometers across the country. And as the missiles took flight, on the ground the Iranian president lobbed insults at the American president.
I don't think any other administration in the history of the United States has been as opposed to the law and international treaties. I have not seen any administration in the White House as racist as these people, and you cannot expect anything else from them.
In a speech to his recently shaken-up economic team, Rouhani laid out a broad plan for the future. Come what may, Iran will sell oil and will break U.S. sanctions. In the face of American threats, Iranians put their faith in the basic principle of supply and demand.
I believe the previous sanction was a plan, but the current sanction is not planned. Suddenly they had something in their mind and then put sanction. When you limit the supply side, you cannot expect the price go down. It is very simple. Price goes up.
Iran has used unmarked ships to sell oil in international waters, traded oil using the barter system, and Rouhani has also floated the idea of selling oil in alternative currencies to the US dollar. Iran is also counting on a European bypass to the American banking system, but months of promises and public support by the European Union have not led to practical solutions. Behind closed doors, some Iranians are asking if that was the plan all along, despite Rouhani's insistence that European support is a big deal for Iran. Keeping Iran's trust will not be the only challenge for Europe to keep Iran in the nuclear deal. With American sanctions at full strength and more said to be on the way, they'll also have to figure out how to turn the temperature down between hawks in Tehran and Washington.
Matthew 24, 6 and 7. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Nation is the Greek word ethnos, which means a race, as of the same habit, i.e. a tribe, especially a foreign, non-Jewish one, Gentiles, usually by implication, pagan. What I believe Jesus is saying here is that there have always been wars and rumors of wars. But when you see the same ethnic group fighting the same ethnic group, i.e. Arab against Arab, coupled with wars and rumors of wars, now pay attention. His return is near. This is what we are seeing all over the world and the Middle East.
The UN has been escalating its calls for a ceasefire in Yemen and a political solution. But on the ground around the port city of Hodeidah, the opposite is happening. The fighting between pro-government forces and Houthi rebels is intensifying. And so, despite renewed diplomatic efforts by the United States, plans for UN-brokered talks in Sweden in November have been pushed back until the end of the year.
The special envoy for Yemen, Martin Griffiths, has made clear that any military escalation does not help the ongoing efforts to relaunch the political process. We hope to see the first steps for de-escalation in Yemen as we move forward towards convening political consultations between the parties before the end of the year.
But the chance of those hopes being realized is slim. Neither side in Hodeidah seems in the mood to compromise.
Military operations are continuing in the streets of Hodeidah. The Houthi militias will be cleared out, God willing. We'll then continue the fight beyond Hodeidah.
The Houthis have controlled Hodeidah since 2014. Their supporters in the city say they'll never surrender.
The enemy talks about controlling Hodeidah, but we tell them Hodeidah is very far for you. With God's help, we will be victorious, and we are with Abdul Malik al-Houthi.
The World Food Programme is doubling the amount of food aid it gives to Yemen to try and prevent mass starvation.
It's very clear already that we're going to have to double our efforts to reach more people with more food assistance, but it's even more clear that the conflict that's led to that hardship in the first place absolutely has to end.
Until it does, aid agencies say it will be almost impossible to get food supplies into Yemen, leaving 14 million people at risk of starvation.
Psalm 9:17. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God.
We have some breaking news from California, where paradise is in ruins. A wildfire in that town of 27,000 people north of Sacramento has destroyed an estimated 2,000 or more buildings. Fire officials believe some people were killed, and 2 more fires north of Los Angeles are threatening tens of thousands of homes, forcing an emergency evacuation overnight.
The so-called Camp Fire in Northern California covers more than 20,000 acres and threatens another 15,000 or more structures. It is extremely dangerous, as David Begnaud discovered after officials escorted him through the fire lines.
Good idea. Ready? Yeah. 3, 2.
David filed this report from the first scene in Paradise, California.
It has been 24 hours since the fire exploded here in Northern California, and it is still windy. That's the storage center behind me that is burning, and we've been hearing explosions. That's why we're walking away. Listen, over the last 24 hours, there have been harrowing accounts of people literally abandoning their vehicles and getting out to run for their lives.
Heavenly Father, please help us.
Surrounded by walls of flames, whipped by winds of 50 miles per hour. People drove through hell trying to escape. Their homes and those of their neighbors burned to the ground.
And everything is burning up around us.
The campfire exploded in intensity, filling the sky with toxic smoke.
Oh my God.
That could be seen from San Francisco, which is nearly 150 miles away.
So we grabbed our animals and some food and some clothes, and we're getting the heck out of here.
There was very little time for the 27,000 people who live in Paradise to evacuate.
Everything was ignited. By the time I got out of my house, it was like everything was on fire.
Just after 1 a.m., CAL FIRE District Chief John Cox escorted us into the town. It is a disaster. We saw those cars that people abandoned as they felt trapped and decided to run. Some people took refuge in concrete parking lots, which proved to be lifesavers. Officials tell us firefighters used their own shelter kits to shield civilians from the flames.
We're talking devastated.
That's CAL FIRE Captain Scott McLean.
The town center is completely on the ground. On the south side as well as the north side has been hit very hard as well.
I hope people got up. I woke up all my neighbors, got them out of bed. Next thing you know, their house is on fire. I saved their lives.
Dwayne D'Amico, a retired engineer, escaped with his dog.
I don't think there's not going to be a home left in Paradise. I don't know. When I left, it was all on fire.
So we have spent most of the night riding around this retirement community of Paradise, and I got to tell you, most of the town looks like it's been wiped out. Gail, what we don't know is how many people may have died in their homes because they just couldn't get out fast enough.
Well, there's certainly more to come, guys, when you look at that story. And the fact that it's called Paradise, there's some irony about that when you look at those visuals.
In the book of Job, chapter 37, 5 through 13, we learn that God controls the weather. God thunders marvelously with his voice. He does great things which we cannot comprehend. For he says to the snow, fall on the earth, likewise to the gentle rain and the heavy rain of his strength. He seals the hand of every man, that all men may know his work. The beasts go into dens, and remain in their lairs. From the chamber of the south comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering winds of the north. By the breath of God ice is given, and the broad waters are frozen. Also with moisture he saturates the thick clouds. He scatters his bright clouds, and they swirl about, being turned by his guidance, that they may do whatever he commands them on the face of the whole earth. He causes it to come, whether for correction, or for his land, or for mercy. God controls the weather for 3 reasons: for punishment, for his land, or for mercy. The extreme weather we have been witnessing is clearly punishment.
2 more out-of-control fires are on the move in Southern California, not far from the scene of Wednesday's terrible mass shooting. The Woolsey Fire is what it's called, has burned dozens of homes and threatened 30,000 more. People in some neighborhoods have been told to get out. John Blackstone is on the scene in Oak Park, that's northwest of Los Angeles, where firefighters were battling through the night to save the homes there. John, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, the battle is continuing in this neighborhood where 15 to 20 homes here alone have already been destroyed. And across this fire, some 30 homes, at least 30 homes, have been consumed. The conditions here are bone dry with erratic winds gusting 25 to 55 miles an hour, fanning the flames. The intensifying Woolsey fire has quadrupled in size in just hours. Firefighters are doing their best to battle the raging flames as they jump from one house to the next.
With these high winds, it's really hard with the ember cast that's happening. It's really hard for us to save some of these homes. So what we're doing is putting a water curtain in between some homes to stop the fire from leapfrogging and catching other homes on fire.
30,000 people have been evacuated so far. We were there as flames overtook another Oak Park home, despite firefighters' efforts. Big problem firefighters are having here, even when they think they have this under control. Embers fall and another house blown in by these strong winds start another fire. The number of evacuees is expected to rise as embers push ahead of the fire. One evacuation center was even forced to close down as the flames spread. And just west of here, another blaze, dubbed the Hill Fire, topped 10,000 acres yesterday. Hundreds of firefighters are still struggling to contain it. Now, this fire still burning badly on the hillsides here has meant complete devastation for some homeowners, and this is really tragedy on top of tragedy here because, of course, this is part of the Thousand Oaks community, which was the scene of that mass shooting on Wednesday night.
Jesus said a sign of his return would be more frequent and more intense weather, as we read in Matthew 24:7 and 8. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Pestilence is the Greek word loimos, which means a plague. Definition of a plague is any large-scale calamity, especially when thought to be sent by God. God has used plagues in the form of extreme weather in the past, and will again in the future. The 7th plague on Egypt was hail. Don't forget about the famine in Joseph's time. One of the biggest is the flood in the book of Genesis. In the future, during the 7-year tribulation, God will once again use extreme weather in the form of pestilence as judgment. In Revelation 16:21, God uses hailstones weighing 100 pounds each, and great hail from heaven fell upon men, each hailstone about the weight of a talent. Men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, since that plague was exceedingly great. In Revelation 16:8 and 9, God uses scorching heat. Then the 4th angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and power was given to him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and they blasphemed the name of God who has power over these plagues, and they did not repent and give him glory. So when Jesus Christ warns us that just before his second coming, there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places, you had better believe that these occurrences are a sign from God, and that he is about to intervene. Matthew 24:12. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. In this prophecy, Jesus Christ is describing an ongoing breakdown in the relationship with God. And since people's love for God is waning, it will be evident in the way people treat one another as well. A symptom may be that the love toward other people is decreasing, but the real cause is that the relationship with God is cooling off. This is what we are witnessing in our world today.
Tucker Carlson, you're outside your home to protest of fascism and racism. You promote hate that's led to an ideology that has led to thousands of people dying by the hands of the police, to trans women being murdered in the streets. Your policies promote hate, and we might even know where you sleep at night.
Male violence,
we know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night.
Radical left-wing mob targeting our own Tucker Carlson. An angry group of criminal Antifa protesters showed up outside his home last night, the crowd chanting threats against him and his family. They vandalized his property. Tucker wasn't home at the time, but his wife was when the group started banging on his front door. She hid in the pantry, called 911, thinking that she was about to be a victim of a home invasion. D.C. police are now investigating the incident as a hate crime. Dana, there are a lot more details in this. Apparently, there was one protester caught mentioning a pipe bomb among the other details, and the front door being broken.
Well, having known a lot of us, all of us know Tucker and Susie, who is one of the most wonderful women. To imagine, in your mind's eye, what it was like for her, how scary that might have been, and to hide in your home and to not know what was happening. And I understand that his brother was there pretty quickly. These people are such cowards. It is. It's distressing, and I know that if it was the other way around, that if somebody on the left that had a talk show had this happen to them at their house, Tucker Carlson would be the first to defend them and to defend them strongly, and hopefully other people will. I do want to mention that Fox News, the CEO, Suzanne Scott, and the president, Jay Wallace, had put out a statement saying how reprehensible it was, and that we as a nation have become far too intolerant of different points of view, and that recent events across our country clearly highlight the need for a more civil, respectful, and inclusive national conversation. And they say also that those of us in the media and in politics bear a special obligation to all Americans to find common ground.
When you're surrounding someone's homes, you've lost the intellectual argument. Tucker Carlson makes pretty well thought out intellectual arguments about immigration, about tearing down monuments, about trade, political correctness, and he does it in a very thoughtful way. The people that disagree with him can't make that intellectual argument. So what they do, they're reduced to surrounding his house and chanting. And that is so uncivilized in this country. We don't live in the dark ages where you rush a house with a pitchfork. These people should man up, stop being such infantile.
They should be arrested, too.
And actually, if you disagree with someone, there's avenues and institutions in this country where you could get heard.
Dana made the point. You arrest them, you charge them, and you throw them in prison, period.
2 Timothy 3:1-5. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, and from such people turn away.
This cell phone video posted to Facebook is being investigated by police. In the clip, you can see two men start throwing punches while one woman grabs another by the hair and starts hitting her repeatedly in the face while swinging her around on the floor by her hair. Norfolk police say they did get a call for service last night, but when the officers arrived, the scene was clear. Nobody was reported as being seriously hurt, and no charges have been filed. Many shoppers we spoke to have seen the video circulating on Facebook.
When I saw it, my first thing, I'm just like, okay, this how you really drag a person. Now, if my daughter was here, then I probably would have really felt some type of way, but I seen it online, so it's not a big deal to me.
We spoke to the manager at Walmart today, who said they cannot comment about the incident, and they directed us to their corporate office. Folks we spoke to say the employees should have had help from people watching the fight.
If I saw that as a shopper, I would have intervened. And I'm sure somebody else would have helped me. I'd have tried to break that up because that was really terrible.
One mom we spoke to says at least it was blows and not bullets.
I'd rather see a fist fight any day rather than guns.
Police say if a weapon was used or someone was seriously injured, they could file charges. In this case, because the parties did not stay on scene or press charges against their attacker, the police have no evidence to go on.
But we start tonight with a deadly shooting in Philadelphia. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington.
And I'm Jessica Cartalia. Philadelphia homicide detectives collecting evidence and tracking a killer in Point Breeze tonight. This developing story is unfolding at 15th and Federal. Investigators say a gunman shot and killed a 15-year-old boy in the area of the Anna grocery store. The gunfire erupted around 7:30. The suspect also shot a 16-year-old boy in his right side. He is in critical condition. And a 20-year-old man in the leg. He is in stable condition. Police are investigating what led to this shooting.
We do have some video footage which shows at least one male shooting southbound on that location, but the primary scene is actually south of here, where there are multiple rounds, upwards of 39 rounds that were fired. It appears that the shooter from this corner right here is probably firing in retaliation to what happened south of this location and where the victims were found.
Police are searching for the suspect behind an unprovoked attack in Brooklyn. Surveillance video shows the suspect kicking and punching the 55-year-old victim. It happened Tuesday afternoon on a busy stretch of East 13th and Avenue J in the Midwood section. People who live and work in the area say it's scary, but becoming all too common.
It just seems lately that there's been a lot more of these stories happening. So we got to be more aware of what's going on around us.
So far, police do not have a motive for the attack. They say the victim and suspect did not know each other. Anyone with any information is asked to contact police.
One of the many signs that we are living in the end times is the epidemic of violence that is sweeping the world today. Jesus tells us when society parallels the days of Noah, he will return, as we read in Matthew 24:37-39. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So what was going on in Noah's day that parallels our day? To find out the answer, we need to go back to the book of Genesis 6, 5 through 13. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. There is no doubt about the hour in which we live being the season for the return of the Lord Jesus Christ, as we link Matthew 24, verses 12 and 37 through 39 with 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. The Bible describes our day very clearly from these scriptures. The condition of wickedness and violence that caused the earth to be destroyed in Noah's day is the same condition our earth is in today. John 15, 18 through 20. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you.
This is a political stunt, bottom line.
That wasn't a stunt. It was a message.
Whatever you want to call it, this is what Pasco election supervisor Brian Corley says hundreds of voters called his office to complain about on election day.
If you vote for a Democrat on Tuesday, don't go to church on Sunday and sing, "Oh, how I love Jesus."
It was posted here outside the polling place at Grace of God Church. So Corley called Pastor Al Carlisle.
He told me, well, I put it up. And you literally could have blew me over the feather at that point.
The sign was more than 100 feet from the entrance and on private property, so election workers couldn't remove it. And Carlisle refused to take the sign down, even though Corley says he told him he'd revoke the church's polling place status, a move that could cost taxpayers thousands.
My sign was not directed at any one person, it was directed at a platform that Democrats have defined themselves as being pro-abortion, pro same-sex marriage, open borders.
Corley says there's no law stopping proprietors of polling places from placing signs like this, and there's nothing forcing him to revoke the location. He says it's a matter of principle.
We literally had voters on hold, polling places on hold, trying to get problems solved. Why were they on hold, you ask, Sarah? Because we were too busy being inundated with phone calls.
So does Carlisle.
Just because I pastor a church doesn't mean I give up my right as a citizen to have an opinion, to have freedoms.
1 Corinthians 16:13. Watch, stand fast in the faith, be brave, be strong. Matthew 5:10 through 12. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you.
Years ago, scientists beamed the famous Arecibo message into the cosmos as a deliberate message to any aliens who might be out there smart enough to decode it. Now they're going to beam a new one out there, and they're creating a global challenge so that you can participate. That's right, this is your chance to say what you want to aliens. The first Arecibo message was written by an astrophysicist named Frank Drake. He constructed the Arecibo message from a set of ones and zeros, which made a funky little postcard that explained 7 things about humans and what we know on planet Earth. First was the numbers 1 through 10, indicating we're smart enough to both perceive the concept of numbers and to count. Then came the atomic numbers of the elements hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, which make up our DNA. Then came the formulas for the sugars and bases in the nucleotides of DNA. Then came the number of nucleotides in DNA and a graphic representation of the double helix structure of our DNA. Then came a graphic figure of a human with the height of an average man and the population of Earth. Then came a graphic image of the solar system, indicating we have 9 rocks revolving around our sun and that we're on the 3rd one. Lastly came a graphic of the telescope that beamed the message into space, along with the size of the dish. So, the message essentially gave aliens a little postcard saying where to find us, what we're made of, and what we look like, should they want to come and visit. This is all good information to tell aliens about us for sure. But now they want to send a new message, and they want input on what it should say. So if you'd like to get in on that, use the hashtag #NewAreciboMessage on social media and let the scientists and the aliens know your 2 cents. Personally, I think that since we know this planet is eventually going to kick us off one way or another, and we're still not ready for space travel, I'm thinking the scientists need to figure out a new graphic for a human, waving their hands desperately at the sky, asking any alien who can read it, please, please, swing by and save us.
A pair of Harvard scientists say a massive, fast-moving visitor to our solar system may have been a probe sent by an advanced alien civilization. Astronomers were excited to discover the interstellar object last year. It was named Oumuamua. That's Hawaiian for messenger or scout. Tony DeCopel takes a look at the evidence behind the controversial theory. He's at New York's Hayden Planetarium. Tony, what a story. Good morning.
Yeah, I hope your son's watching. Good morning. Quick astronomy lesson. What you're looking at here is a meteorite. That came from our solar system, basically our own intergalactic backyard. Oumuamua, by contrast, is the first observed object to come from outside of our solar system. And get this, once it got here, it behaved in ways that scientists can't quite explain, which is why this team of Harvard scientists is floating a theory that even they admit is a little out there. When Oumuamua was discovered last October, it was tumbling past the sun at 196,000 miles per hour. To some, the reddish object looked like a cigar. Others thought it was shaped like a pancake.
It looks very different from objects that we have found in the solar system.
Avi Loeb, chair of the Harvard University Astronomy Department, said Oumuamua did not behave like an ordinary asteroid or give off gas like a comet.
There seemed to be an extra force that is pushing it, and it's not clear what this push is from.
In an upcoming paper, he and a colleague offer what they call a more exotic scenario. Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth vicinity by an alien civilization. According to their calculations, Oumuamua is less than 1 millimeter thin, but very wide like a sail, harnessing solar radiation to propel itself, similar to the spacecraft used by Count Dooku in the Star Wars films.
I just want everybody to take that with a gigantic grain of salt.
Jackie Faraday is an astrophysicist at the American Museum of Natural History. She says Oumuamua did not give off any signals suggesting it was a spacecraft.
If you say that the top 10 list of explanations does not include alien probe, what is on that list?
It's a comet.
Or an asteroid?
Or an asteroid, a rock.
So then where is alien civilization on the list of explanations?
I don't know, real low. real low.
Faraday doubts Oumuamua's appearance means we're on the verge of an alien encounter, like the one in the movie Arrival.
Oumuamua, as it stands, is a phenomenal discovery and a really important object for astronomers to study and for the public to get excited about. It's okay that it's not aliens.
Now, Oumuamua is out of our solar system, and we can no longer see it with our satellites. Now, Faraday does have a theory for why we keep coming up with these exotic explanations. As hard as it is to fathom the existence of aliens, it's apparently even harder for us to fathom the idea that we're alone.
Could an alien deception be the strong delusion God sends on an unbelieving and unrepentant world in the last days? Recently, interest has been rising in the theory that an alien deception will be part of the end times. Odd as it may seem, this theory is entirely plausible from a Christian perspective. Although the Bible gives us no word about whether or not aliens exist, there is no inclusion of them in the creation account in Genesis, and no mention of them elsewhere. The Bible does tell us about visitors from another world, the spiritual world, as we read in Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Could this phenomenon be the strong delusion of the last days that is talked about in the Bible? 2 Thessalonians 2:9-12. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason God will send them strong delusion, that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Why is God sending a strong delusion? The Bible makes it clear. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Simply put, God sends a strong delusion to those who choose not to believe the gospel of Jesus Christ. The prophet Isaiah puts it succinctly. Just as they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abominations, so will I choose their delusions, and bring their fears on them. Because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not hear, but they did evil before my eyes, and chose that in which I do not delight. Christians must deal with this from a biblical worldview, and not be caught up in the deception that UFOs are anything but agents of the prince of the power of the air, aka Satan. Luke 21:28. Now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Luke 21:36. Watch therefore, and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man.
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when He makes His personal appearance. My God, what if His appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning is get ready! Get ready!
The signs of Jesus' soon return are so strong now, and the evidence is so clear that any person willing to accept the truth can see that the end of the world as we know it is near. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But God demonstrates His own love toward us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. That if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. Time is short. Accept Jesus today.